Today we're going to look into WildC.A.T.s Covert Action Team Special Number 1. Written by Steve Gerber, with art by Charest, and inks by Scott Williams, Sal Regla, Trevor Scott, Alex Gardner, and Michael Fecci. The famous movie star William Desmond is on his deathbed with a doctor tending to him. The paramedics finally arrive, but to a horrific scene. The Damonite possesses Dr. Heath in order to avoid dying as Desmond does. He then proceeds to take out everyone in the room and leaves no survivors. A strange being arrives in the middle of a storm. She herself is a former resident of this coastal town, but that was a long time ago before she took on the name Providence. And now she's a seer who can see other realities and the future, but she can't see her own future. But despite all this immense power, she still finds herself returning to her old home. She was just a child when this happened to her, so she still holds on to her childish things. And so these familiar things act as a touchstone for her, knowing so much, yet knowing nothing about her own fate. Back in Beverly Hills, the frustrated Damonite realizes that Dr. Heath's body cannot take this possession much longer. So he calls up some help from a familiar name, the Gnome. In the Halo building, the secret headquarters of the WildC.A.T.s, Void sits in her chamber trying to concentrate. She too can see visions of the future, and right now what she sees is disturbing her greatly. She sees visions of war and destruction. And atop a mountain of desolation, she sees something. A strange crib that holds a child that she feels compelled to protect. But as she moves towards the child, she is horrified to see that a Damonite has already claimed it. The fall brings her back to reality, and she realizes she must tell the others. Meanwhile, despite all this impending gloom and doom, Lord Imp is out on the town having a good time, just like he always does. So he is not too happy when Void interrupts his potential date. And as he watches the girl run away, Void can't help but just continue to try to tell him about her vision. And so instead of allowing her to teleport them, he tells her they're gonna walk home so he can clear his head. Later, after the team convenes, Void shares with them her visions and how she thinks it's about a gifted one who's about to be abducted by the Damonites. After that they determine that the visions are showing the war-torn country of Yugovia, Zealot lets them know that an ex-Coda is ruling that country and her name is Baroness Destine. Grifter says he has experience in that country from the old days, so him and Voodoo are tasked to go ahead of them, and the rest of the team will be on standby in case they run into trouble. Meanwhile, in the country of Yugovia, Baroness Destine is having a conversation with the Gnome, who seems to have survived his last encounter with the WildC.A.T.s. He lets her know that soon there will be a Damonite visiting her country looking for the gifted one, and with him the WildC.A.T.s as well. Back in Rhode Island, the Damonite arrives at Providence's house. But when her parents deny him entry, he forces his way in. This of course gets the attention of Providence, and she arrives to put a stop to all this. Providence's mother recognizes her and pleads with her to let her know what's going on. But Providence knows it's too dangerous for her parents to stay, so she does what she needs to keep them safe. Providence demands to know the meaning of this outrage from the Daemonite. He lets her know that his desperation for survival led him to this action. She agrees to help him, but lets him know there will be a price. The Wildcats enter Yugovian's airspace and prepare for the mission. Void tries to teleport Grifter and Voodoo down below, but she has no idea that Providence's simultaneous teleportation has caused her problems. Grifter and Voodoo land in the Yugovian fields. But before they can catch their breath, Grifter sees trouble coming on the horizon. Grifter and Voodoo finally make it to town, or at least what's left of it. And after checking in with some old contacts, Grifter finds out where they should head next. And as usual, Grifter knows how to make an entrance. But apparently so does Baroness Destine, as she has beaten them there along with Providence and the Daemonite. But Grifter doesn't waste any time engaging Baroness Destine before she can get in the first hit. And Grifter tells Voodoo to go after the Daemonite before he gets to the baby. Voodoo tries to make a move towards the baby, but it's too late. The Daemonite has already taken the baby. But just when all hope seems lost, the Wildcats are finally headed home as Lord Imp helps tend to the baby. Void and Zealot discuss the events of the day, including meeting the other seer named Providence and what it could mean for the future. Meanwhile, Grifter gets a little too touchy-feely with Voodoo and almost loses his teeth over it. And once again our heroes fly off into the sunset, ready to fight another day. And there you have WildC.A.T.s Covert Action Team Special number 1. Man, I could feel the length of the extra pages from this one just by doing this video, so thank you if you stuck with me this long. I can understand why they made it a special, because the whole feel of this reminds me of those Dragon Ball Z movies where they're this whole separate adventure apart from the regular series. I also know there are some ideas in here that translate into the cartoon, like the country of Yugovia for example, but it's been so long since I've seen it, I don't remember what else was in there. I also don't think we ever see this cherubim child again, but hey, I could be wrong because I didn't think we ever would see the gnome again, and he showed up in this issue. But this might be his last appearance. Might. And last but not least, I believe this is Travis Charest's first artwork for WildC.A.T.s, and as we know, he comes later and does a lot more issues in some of the later series as well, so he definitely put his mark on this team. Alright, let's go ahead and wrap up this longer than normal video by reminding you, if you like this video, be sure and hit like, and please subscribe, because I'll continue to do a lot of the old Wildstorm stuff, as well as some of the sporadic new stuff in the DCU with Wildstorm characters. And until then, we'll see you next time.